Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore used to be just a made-up word. MCs
You wake up. You're in complete darkness. You feel your way around the muck all around you. You smell wet stones as the smell just fills your nose. You find your pack and feel around inside of it for your torch and flint. You grab them out and you finally manage to get a spark going after 15 minutes. And there, in the dark, you see...
us! Sitting there waiting for you to figure that out.
Woohoo!
Hey!
Well, that was exciting.
That was.
Welcome to Every Man's Guide to Nerddom, where we are two 30 to 40-something-year-olds who can talk about pretty much whatever we want. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kyle. And you guys might know us online as Guyver and as K-Sig or Bronco. Me.
Today's episode, if you have not figured it out, is role-playing or RPG. Role-playing game. We aren't doing any particular game per se, but just the general concept of role-playing in general, because there's a lot of you as we bring it up. Not necessarily you who are listening. Most of you will probably know what role-playing is, but like when you're talking to someone and you ask, oh yeah, I was doing a campaign and I was role-playing, and they're gonna be like, is that like a bedroom thing? What are you doing? So we're just gonna go over magic wizard.
Imagine Chris walking in just in a little Red Riding Hood outfit and like, no, not that role play.
That's Fridays.
That's
only
a different.
That's only if it's the 21st. That's only the 21st. So we're basically just gonna go over the basic format, and we're gonna go over a bunch of just the different types of games out there. The reason we're not gonna go over just any one in particular, we want this to kind of be an overview of role playing. And Kyle, why do we want it to be just like an overview? Is there any particular reason? You role play right now, so let's ask you why do we want this to be an overview?
Well, because people get different ideas and different views, especially if you're familiar with role playing. You may be familiar with it in different formats. There's the old school role playing, D&D, Pathfinder, tabletop role playing, Star Wars, Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf, Firefly, all these in-person, very social, sitting around the table, coming up with your character type of role plays. And then there's also role playing, RPGs, and I think RPG really hits more towards the gamer community. When you hear RPGs, people think of the Elder Scrolls series with Daggerfall, Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout, The Witcher, all these, even going back to like Zelda, Final Fantasy, all these RPG type games. And then you have a totally different subgenre of that, where people actually role play in games that may not necessarily be RPG type games. There's GTA, Grand Theft Auto has a huge role play community. Red Dead Redemption has a huge role play community, and those are two that I'm familiar with, and that's a whole different subset of role playing that we'll kind of go over a little bit. So role playing in gaming, there's so many different facets to it that it's gonna be hard to get in one episode. We want to come back and like hit on all these individually as we go forward through with the show and the series itself. So this will be kind of a high flying episode to kind of touch on a bunch of little things, or touch on a bunch of different topics and give a little tidbits here and there of those, and then we'll eventually dive back into each subset in a little bit more detail as we go forward.
I like how I was saying, it's just so vast and everything that you can do. Literally each game will be its own episode, and there's a lot of games out there. There's a lot of damn games, and
Mhm.
we want to give each game that someone's brought up to us or we know of. We want to give it its due. We want to make sure it gets a fair shake in this podcast. So that's kind of again why we're doing what we did. So, and Kyle, jump in at any time, because what I know of this is what I grabbed from the internets.
Yeah.
Because again, going off last episode, we're old, so it's the internets.
All the internets.
It's all your internets are belong to us. So role playing started out basically in you watched that documentary. Why don't you take this? Because all I have is what I typed out here, and it's not as good as what you were explaining to me earlier.
Well, I watched like a brief history of Dungeons and Dragons, how that got started, and a little preface here, like I'm very new to D&D and tabletop roleplay in general. Like it's something I've always wanted to do, but I've actually finally got to get into it within the last couple of months. But what was interesting is how it spurred and how it started. Tabletop type games like D&D that are role playing really spurred from board games, right? And so the board games have been popular for the last couple of centuries, actually going back. I think it was the 1800s. There was some earlier documentation of that with just taking miniatures and acting out real world battles, whether it be like medieval or modern military and things like that. And it kind of made the turn in the late 60s to early 70s of more of a Tolkien-esque fantasy realm to it. And even the first iteration of Dungeons and Dragons itself was still very focused on like the large scale battles of like tabletop style gaming, where you didn't have your small band of ruffians and adventurers going off on quest. It was still very very large scale with battles that were from what I saw lined up to be several hundred combatants at once, from both from the player side and from the NPC side. And so it was an evolution of the old style war games, and eventually things were added in, more handouts, more supplements and books that added classes and subclasses and campaigns, and it was just this ever growing beast, if you will, of evolution until we got to where we are today.
So let's go back to what Kyle was saying. Is we're going to get into, you're not going to understand half of what he just said unless you have role played or know someone who actively role plays, like classes, subclasses. We're going to kind of go into a high overview of all that stuff. So Don't worry, we don't want to lose you right here. This is just we're just giving you kind of the overview of it. It was originally published in Dungeons and Dragons, I should say, in 1974 by TSR. TSR is very famous in the nerding community. That's Tactical Studies Rules, Inc. And it was created by Gary Gygax and Dave is it Arneson? I think it is. So they started off basically in a basement. Is it a basement or someone's garage? I'm trying to remember. It was the basement, wasn't it?
I think it was a basement.
I think it was the basement. And they were just looking for something with a little bit more, like Kyle was saying, Tolkien-esque rules to it. They were just looking for something to get away from their lives. It's when you're younger and you're not with the in crowd, it can suck. So you want to find some way to expand your horizons, to get away, something to an escape. And thus Dungeons and Dragons was born. So Kyle, what else did you see about like Gary Gygax and Dave?
What I watched, there wasn't a huge dive into their lives, just mostly that they came to know each other and the other people that helped develop D&D to what it is today. There were smaller groups, almost like little social clubs scattered about, and they were they would meet and do, much like you do for, D&D and other tabletop sessions today, they would meet for these wargaming sessions. And they just, kind of had a vision of there's more that could be done with this, aside from, well, there's just battles, let's, to where they could really expand on it and make it a more immersive experience. When they finally kind of graduated onto Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which is really considered, version 1. They wanted to give the players, a chance to tell a story rather than work out through a battle. They wanted to have, these groups, want you and your players and your groups to go on adventures and, encouraged exploring and alternative methods of handling these situations outside of fighting, because you've played a lot more than I have. That it's not always in the best interest to try to fight and defeat the big bad guy.
No, it's not.
There's always, and so it opened up this realm of creativity that wasn't present in these earlier board games, where it was tactical creativity. It was, how can I maneuver my troops and how can I position them to have a better tactical advantage. It evolved into more storytelling and really kind of driving players to create their character, have a personal tie with that character, to live out a life that otherwise you couldn't. I can't be a
role play.
Role play. You
role
pick a
play
role and you play it. It's and I can't. Well, I guess I kind of could be a dwarf, but like a Tolkien-esque dwarf. Carrying a battle hammer and going into dungeons and fighting slimes and looking for dragons and stuff like that. Like, I can't walk out my back door and do that, but in this world that's created with you and other people that collaborated, it evolves, and you kind of help shape and mold it into whatever it becomes, and you couldn't do that with the war games because it was all tactical. And so with the actual role playing coming about, it gave people a chance to create their own world, and you could take these campaigns that were kind of preset guidelines of adventures and things that you could go on, and no two playthroughs would be the same, even with the same groups of players, because if you're picking different roles and different styles of tackling these problems or approaching them or avoiding them altogether, you have completely different stories, even with the same backbone of the story with different playthroughs. So I think that was a big attraction for it as well.
Well, and just like no two people are alike, like you're saying, there's no two stories that are going to be alike. You can give the bones to someone of the story of the campaign, but then you may tell it, which you will tell it a different way than I may tell it.
Right.
You may tell it saying, the players may meet, they may go to a tavern and they have a good time and, meet with the bar wenches and just whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Mine might involve like a unicorn, some dragons, and like a buffalo and a 9-iron.
I want to play your campaign.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to go golfing with a unicorn as a
It's your caddy?
As a golf court. Yeah, buffalo's my caddy. Write that down.
So,
we need to.
That's actually a good idea for a show. Yeah, it's a good idea for a show. And let me preference too that they weren't, when Gygax and Dave, I said just call him Dave because I don't know how to pronounce his last name correctly. They weren't teenagers when they created this; they were adults.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool that these adults created something that created in '74 is still going.
Mm-hmm. It's still evolving.
Going strong, and it's becoming a lot more popular. So, and we'll delve more into that later. And like I said, we'll go a lot more in depth with them and Dungeons and Dragons when we hit that episode. But this episode's just the overview, so you can get a little bit better understanding of it before you decide, man, what are these guys doing? Why are we listening to this? Mm-hmm. We want to give you the understanding.
we'll kind of say if you're a modern video gamer, and you would enjoy things that are labeled as RPGs right now, and you know, Skyrim is the big one that everybody still talks about, but even you know, Fallout and different games, the way these games are structured and built, their roots are in old D&D for your character development and leveling and hit points. Hit points came about because of D&D, and experience points and proficiencies and you know, feats and traits and things. Though all those systems, your basic skill tree system that you see in almost any, not even like, it's even branched out from RPG games to even some shooter games and things. That skill tree developed as a result of Cyberpunk.
That's a new one, and it's relevant right now. And
It's
I mean,
relevant,
this skill tree.
and I haven't touched it yet
Oh,
because I know what'll happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We won't see you for about 2 weeks.
yeah. I have really big lag in production if I start playing Cyberpunk.
So, actually, hold on. Let me read this. Didn't we get our first? We sold our first commercial sponsor this week, didn't we?
We did, and we'll take a moment, you know, here to really. I mean, we really appreciate this guy a lot for taking the time out and really seeing that this is something that he wanted to get behind and you know, really really get his name out.
He's putting himself out there. Yeah, putting his name and his business out there, and we appreciate it. It takes a lot of courage to do this, to, you know, to sell time.
It does. It does.
Yeah,
and we appreciate him, you know, trusting us with his brand to really get it out there to the masses. And so, you know, for Horny Harry's Big Game Horn Mounting is sponsoring this episode, and we'll take a moment here to recognize our sponsor and let them get their plug in.
And without further ado,
hey, you! Is your significant other getting mad because your horniness is everywhere? The bathroom, the living room, the garage, your car, even your dog? Well, this has been a problem for me as well. My horniness has caused all sorts of problems for me. This is why I started Horny Harry's Big Game Horn Mounting. I'll mount horns anywhere. The living room, the garage, the bathroom, or your dog. Your horns are too large? No problem. Your horns are too small? No problem. We'll mount them all. So come on down to Horny Harry's, where our motto is, I'm horny, or you? Oh, and no wolves allowed. Only available in some states with legal hunting. If your mounting lasts over 6 hours, please consult your doctor. Thank you, Horny Harry's Big Game Horn Mounting. We really appreciate you getting behind us and really supporting what we do.
I appreciate it the most because, damn it, when I have those small horns, small horns, you know, that I've gotten. It was great. He was able to mount them no problem. So yeah. We really appreciate it. Horny Harry, we salute you. You are a real hero.
American treasure.
American treasure, damn it. Okay, so now let's jump back into the RPGs.
Okay.
And let's talk about how you actually do it now. Because most people, again, are thinking that we're sitting around in robes, drinking essence of canine to gain powers. That was the episode of King of the Hill where Bobby joined the group, and they made him try and drink the dog blood.
Oh, okay, I got you now. That's not how you play?
Well, apparently not. I just roll around in the blood.
Robe now.
Where's my robe?
A robe back from the cleaners.
Oh, Kyle.
Don't.
Kyle,
Mrs. Big
put on your robes. So each role-playing game, each RPG, they have their own set of rules, but the outcome is always the same. You have your core-based set of rules, such as you have to pick your character. Is your character going to be a boy or a girl? Is it not going to be a boy or a girl? Is it going to be somewhere in between? Is it from a race? We'll go into race. Is it from a race that doesn't have men or women, or they're hermaphroditic, or they're blobs, or they're slimes? What Kyle, let's go into like racial classes. Like, what are the different races that you know of that people can play?
Well, just even something I found out earlier, which was kind of cool, and I'm really surprised I didn't catch on to this, is like the halfling race in D&D. The halfling race that's a hobbit. That is actually a hobbit, and they were originally, I believe, referred to as such. And there were some kind of legal things with the Tolkien estate and Gygax and D&D stuff where they had to change the name of some of these, and so a lot of your like fantasy type races. I mean, you have orcs and goblins and giants and Goliaths and elves, and then you have half elk, half orcs and humans and
Gnomes.
And so gnomes and in a lot of these games, you gain a special, they call it, it's a racial ability or a racial perk or a racial benefit, where I know we keep kind of going back to it, but Skyrim and just the Elder Scrolls series in general, the Argonians are like a reptile type class, and they're more apt for like sneaky type activities. They have a boost to stealth and can breathe underwater, where humans and other races cannot breathe underwater. And
poison resistance,
magic resistance, frost resistance, heat resistance. So all that kind of goes into when you're looking at the character that you want to play and the type of role and the vision that you have in your head of like what this character is going to be. You start looking at these races, or you may back into it and say, okay, well, I want to be, a dwarf paladin or something, some random mashup, and you go into it that way and build off your character and backstory off of that. And so all these things kind of go into play when building that character before you even, start picking weapons and armor and gear and all the fun little bits.
The fun ditties.
The fun little ditties that you get to
the
carry
ditties.
with you.
So, and you don't even get, like Kyle was saying, you don't get to get that far until you pick your core character, your starting character. Right. So once you pick your character, you'll pick like, I'm going to be a human male. You'll pick literally everything about this person. I'm 25. I have, you have to pick a backstory. I'm 6'2", 350 pounds, like well built, has a scar below his left cheek. You have to give every bit of information. In the old days, it was pen and pencil or pen and paper.
Yeah.
You'd have to write it down, and you'd have to tell them, okay, here's this. You have to give them a backstory. And when you give them that backstory, that's who makes this person. Just like our backstories make who we are today, these backstories make these people. Like, they may have been sold to a traveling circus of gnolls and dark elves, and they were horribly abused. So they have a hatred of gnolls and dark elves, which sends them into a blinding rage, which means that they'll throw down all their weapons and just start swinging their fists like in a windmill motion. Like, you can give them fatal flaws. You can give them, really good traits. You can give them bad traits. Usually you want to try and give your character some sort of downfall too.
Right.
You don't want to make them
make
all
things
perfect.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to have the perfect specimen every time, because that, in all honesty, that gets boring, and that kind of you develop a when you're creating a character in whatever it is. Honestly, it doesn't have to be D&D. It can be in any type of group role play activity. If you're playing as the perfect specimen of whatever race you are, and there's you can do anything and everything, it gets boring because there's no challenge to it. There's no conflict. There's no character development. There's no story being made other than you have the ability to you're just gonna show up in the dungeon and just wreck shit. There's no, which can be fun. once in my mind. You know,
Once.
but you want that you play these games not to win in a traditional sense. And I'm going to kind of allude a little bit to some of the more modern role-playing scenarios, like in Grand Theft Auto roleplay and Red Dead Redemption, Wild West roleplay stuff. You're not playing these games to beat the game necessarily. That's your end goal. You have quests and things to do, but you'll spend so much more time reminiscing and joking and talking about the little stories and the little one-off things that happened, other than, we kicked that dragon's ass. And I'm like, okay, cool. Everybody eventually is going to try to kick the dragon's ass, but what did you do, from point A to point dragon? How did you get there, and what made it fun and interesting? And
Point A to point dragon.
what did you do from tavern to dragon? What was fun? And because everybody starts in the tavern, but
It's true. It's true.
I like using the GTA RP role play side of it because there's a lot of cops and robbers stuff that happens. There's criminals and cops, and that's a big facet of GTA roleplay online. And it's not fun if the bad guys always win, and it's not fun if the cops always win. If they're working together and they have this mutual agreement that, hey, we're here to, we're telling stories, right? We're here to tell a really cool story, and it's not fun if the bad guy gets away every time and shoots at the cops and down them. And it's not fun if the cops, mow down the bad guys every time something happens. But if they had this cool dialogue between each other, there's a bank robbery and, they're really acting it out, and the bank robber is there because, they're on their last leg, and they're broke, and they owe the mafia boss money that's played by somebody else, and they're trying to get the money, and then they start negotiating with the cops, and hostages get involved. And you have these really cool stories that you can go back and talk about again later, and it's it's more, to me, that's more rewarding than just the stuff and the loot in the game.
That's the kind of stuff that, like you're saying, you're going to reminisce with your friends about 20 years down the line.
Yeah, I'll have some cool stories to relay on that too. As we get into it, and I'm sure I know of at least one really good story that you have that.
Yeah,
there's a couple. Can really highlight that it's not always about the win. Sometimes the losses make the better story.
Sometimes the loss ends the damn campaign. Sometimes the loss ends the damn campaign, and it's all your fault. But we'll get into that here a little bit later.
We'll get there, and I love this story.
Okay, so let's talk about the mechanics a little bit. All RPGs are based off of mechanics. Mechanics are going to be, most of them, the majority of role-playing games that I know of, especially tabletop, are based off of dice. Die. You roll the die. Everything is a roll of the die. And if you ever see shirts that say D20 on there, that means dice with 20 sides on it. That's a staple in most role-playing games.
Right.
Crits, if you ever hear say crits, that's a critical strike. That's really bad. So you'll hear all
really
sorts
good
of
if you're
lingo.
the one delivering it.
No, it's great if you're doing it. What's some of the other lingo? Like, as someone who's role playing right now, what's a nat?
Okay, so you have like a nat 1 and a nat 20. So to kind of build off the D20, the 20-sided die, that's like your go-to for everything. Kind of hitting heavy with D&D, but other games use that whole system of that's your success. That's your measure of success or failure for an action that you're trying to do. Is rolling that D20. Like if I'm saying, I want to, leap over this 6 foot tall bar, but I'm a 2 foot tall halfling. The DM running the game may say, okay, well, I need you to do, athletics check to see if you're actually able to do that. And so you'll roll your D20 and you'll it'll land on numbers somewhere between 1 and 20. And that gauges how effective your attempt is. And so, a nat 20 is landing on 20. That's typically within the realm of possibility that's going to be, an automatic success. Like, you are going to do that, and you're going to do it gloriously, and it's going to look awesome.
Like
that one,
while you're doing it, you might hit like something and like fire may break out behind you, but it's illuminating you while you're doing it.
the
just
other side
something
of
cool.
that is the nat one, which is a critical failure, and you're going to fail probably just as spectacularly as the complete opposite end of the spectrum. That you ran, you slipped on a banana peel, and you rolled, and you fell into the side of the bar, and you chipped a tooth, and you took 1 point bludgeoning damage or something. And then anywhere in between those. So those are your natural rolls, and it's lingo that gets tossed around a lot. And then you kind of go, there's all these other die that are used for different modifiers, different sided die, and that can take a lot to get into. But you have your D20, D4, D6, D10s, all these different sided die, and they all have different purposes in different games and those rule sets and stuff that you look at. Looking at it from the outside, just watching somebody play, and it can seem like, I don't know what the hell they're doing. There's all this dice talk, and they're rolling, and they're adding modifiers and all this stuff. It's there in the guidelines, and so it's harder to follow from the outside. But you watch a little bit, and you start picking up, and you kind of read a little bit, and it's really not as hard as it seems at all. There's a little math involved, so but not hard math.
But so you'll hear like a lot of common themes are dexterity. You'll hear charisma.
Mm-hmm.
You'll hear let's give an example. So there's strength, charisma, wisdom, intelligence, which there's a difference between wisdom and intelligence. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
Let's say that someone who had a charisma of like 18 plus, he was from a race that is like a beautiful, like a godly race. So he gets a modifier of like +6. So he would walk in, and someone with the charisma would try and maybe persuade someone. The group's trying to get into a town. The guard won't let them in. What would someone with charisma do? Like, what would the DM? DM stands for Dungeon Master. If you ever hear us say that, GM is Game Master. Yeah. That's also big lingo that we forgot to go over.
Yeah, interchangeable for a different game, but it's and so like if I went in and if Chris was the DM, for example, and I was like using the example of the character he said, and I walked into a tavern, and there was a barmaid there that we kind of had an idea that she had some knowledge of the location of where this group of bandits were hiding out that we were looking for. But she was, really wanting to withhold that information. I may say, okay, well, I want to try to sweet talk this barmaid a little bit. Let her try to get some information out of her. And before I would do my action, the DM would typically step in and say, roll for persuasion, and you would look at your stats. If you had a little boost to that, you would get some added to your roll, and you would roll that D20, and say I rolled a natural 20, like we talked about earlier. That's an automatic win. So I would be super smooth and charming, and really sweet talker with just with the natural charisma
the
barmaid. That my character would have, the barmaid, and just be like, hey, whatever barmaid names is, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but the light
Broomhilda.
Broomhilda. I just want to say, the light from the fireplace and the music from the bard, and this, I just never think I've laid eyes on a more beautiful creature in all my travels and all the places that I've been. And me and my band here, we are just really looking, for some help. And I would really think just a beautiful lady like you, an intelligent woman. Just, I don't even know why you're working here in the bar. You should be at the college leading courses on wizardry and sorcery. You should be there, but just, we just need a little bit of help. As I grasp her hand and look her in the eyes and say, we would just a little bit of a nudge in any direction to help us find these bandits would be lovely. And the DM would say, roll for persuasion, and if I rolled high enough, it would work. If I rolled low enough, then, it would be something along the lines of you get slapped across the face by the barmaid and she doubles your tab and bad shit happens. Or
Well, and let's go on that too. Like, I will give you a story of what happened to me in one match on a situation like this. So when you're hot, you're hot. When you're rolling dice, when you're bad, you are rolling bad, and it just seems to look like it's worse because you're just doing really bad rolls. So, like in a situation like this, I rolled a 1 a couple times, and with my luck in this situation that Kyle just said, the barmaid Broomhilda leans forward into the light of the fireplace, only for me to see she's a troll barmaid, and she had her way with my character. And not in a good way, not pleasurable. That's what happens. That's the kind of crap that can happen. It depends
stole half
if you're
your silver pieces and
Oh, she did more than that. I was left crying in the horse stall. There, a lot depends too on your DM. If your DM is going to be a vengeful DM, if you did something that they don't like, there's good DMs, there's bad DMs. You may get.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying you may get in. Oh well, no, after you, sir. After you, they took our job.
They took our DMs. Yeah, you have the ones that, you have some DMs that maybe kind of kill heavy, like they're really looking for that TPK. Like, okay, they're in it to win it from the DM side. TPK is like total party kill, to wipe out your whole group in the session, which is not really any fun for anybody. And so it's finding a group and a good DM is a lot like dating. You got to find a good match and good mesh, and you have to have things that complement each other and personalities and play styles and things that make things vibrant and fun. And like Chris said, you get a vengeful DM, and I'm sure you may have had those experiences too, probably more so than I have. It's not that fun. You're there to have fun. You're playing a game, you're there to have fun, and that should be your focus of it, and finding like-minded people that want to do that.
So you actually gave us a great segue here. I'm going to switch up the order of our next talking points here.
Oh God! Okay, go ahead.
Since you were talking about groups, let's talk about that. We'll move this next part down, but let's talk about our next part's the struggle to find a group. So since you mentioned that, let's talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, it's really hard to find a good group. Like I said earlier, I've had an itch to really get into tabletop, and particularly D&D and tabletop role-playing games for several years now. Geographically, where I am, it's really hard. I live in a kind of a low population area. It's hard to find enough people to actually have a game to sit down and play a session, let alone run an entire campaign that could go on for weeks or months or years. And so I did have a little bit of a smaller group at work, and we played some tabletop games. We weren't able to dive into full, D&D sessions. We played some different Star Wars games and other tabletops. Played Scythe and a few others, over our lunch break once a week. But we didn't have the time to sit down and do a full run. And luckily, I came across a really good group this year, and nobody's local. We're actually playing a entire campaign online using a system called Roll20 that allows people to get together and share resources and actually play as if you're
awesome.
It's great. I'm having a blast with it. Share resources, player handbooks and stuff, and
they play. they play a lot on Friday nights. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a blast to watch. Typically, I'm there to give Kyle's character shit.
Yeah, Chris is from the sidelines, not really cheering anybody on, more or less prodding the failures, which is perfectly fine. Which
is kind of what makes it interesting too, and see how they roll with it. But who do you play with? Why don't you again?
Yeah.
Slush.
So the group that I play with, shameless plug. I met them when I started playing Grand Theft Auto roleplay, and that's something that we could probably almost do a whole thing on. But we were a group that found each other in this game. We were, for the most part, everybody that's in there. Yeah, I think everybody that's in there met through that game. And so we were playing as the Lost MC on a Grand Theft Auto RP server, roleplay server. So if you know anything about Grand Theft Auto and the lore, the Lost MC is a big part of that lore. And we wanted to do, some fun, cool biker shit. Like that was our plan. So that's how we all met, and we kind of following the same set of rules of coming up with a character and a backstory and reasoning for doing things. There's some really good role players in that group, and
there really is.
We had somebody said, well, let's just do a D&D campaign, and I missed the first one off that they did. They did a quick short one to kind of warm up, and I got into the second run of it, and I've been having a blast. We started off doing GTA RP, then we moved on to playing Star Wars, Old Republic, and we were going to try to role play in that a little bit, and then now we're into D&D, and it's just it's fun because, like I said, it's kind of like dating, finding that right group of people that are in it to tell a really cool story and have fun with it, and it's
who's in your group?
In my group right now, so there's the people there's some streamers in that group. Myself, Blasted Props, who we talked about in the last episode, he plays and streams occasionally. Phoenix Siren, she streams, and then we have Stony and Addy and Bones, our GM or our DM, and I think every single person in that group. Yeah, we were all Lost MC on GTA RP, so we were all patch members, and so we went from being full on, leather cut wearing bikers rolling around on GTA's version of Harleys and stirring shit up to, like, we've got 2 dwarfs and a couple of elves and a halfling and roaming dungeons and trying to find treasure. And so it's cool to see the versatility of the group go from one to the next, and I consider this group that I play with, the D&D group now, and our extended group that play other things, some of my best friends, and I've never met any of them in person, but we talk on a daily basis without fail, and so that's one of the draws to this for me, and that common theme of becoming an older, kind of aging nerd and trying to find time to do things. Social activities are tough. It's not things involved with kids and other things. Usually when you're done with work and stuff, you want to come home. You don't want to go anywhere else. This is my social outlet. I may be sitting in my little room here, but not out and about. But I'm, getting to interact with people, and we have common interests, and we have things that we can talk about. And that was a really driving force to get things going, like what we're doing with this show now, and getting these things out there that really kind of helped inspire the message for this show. So, again, if you haven't watched it, they roleplay on Fridays. You can watch on Case's stream. It is so much fun to watch. Like, one thing that I've learned from watching them is that if you miss a session, your character gets left behind wondering where your group is. Yep.
And spends the entire session looking for the group.
Yep.
So don't miss a session. You get left behind. But it's super. Yeah, poor props. Poor props. But they're so much fun to watch. Great DM. Whose DM is it?
Bone is our DM, and this is he's actually really fresh to it.
He's doing a great job. Yeah,
but he's doing an amazing job.
He's doing a great job at it. He makes it really interesting to watch, and then and
he's really fair.
He is extremely fair. He's an equal opportunity. You're dead.
Yeah.
So what's really cool is you know, they have like Kyle was saying they have two girls in their group. They have Stony Girl and Phoenix. And they are a blast to watch. They're just funny. Not, you know, it's funny how they role play. They're really intelligent how they do things.
Right.
Because you can tell that they really are. They're very methodical. Yeah. And it's just a lot of fun to watch. And I just, like I said, I just like to go on and give Kyle crap. Just because I know, you know, he's good natured about it. I don't mean anything by it, but it's so much fun. So go watch it. Definitely go watch it Friday nights.
Usually doing that Friday nights, approximately 6 to 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and our sessions will run anywhere from 2 hours to, I think this last one went like 4.5. But they're all out there on Twitch now, and I'm going to try to save those and maybe eventually put those out on YouTube. So if you guys want to see how the groups evolved and things, especially, you know, like with me and our DM Bone, this is like kind of our first really good run at it. And so you'll see how play styles evolve, how people are getting more comfortable with their characters and actually trying to role play their characters out and developing stories, and the banter. Each session, the banter gets better, the character development gets better, and so it's not always like watching someone play a video game like you would typically see on Twitch. It's like watching a story evolve, and I think, you know, there's some other shows and things out there that have really kind of brought that into the limelight to really kind of segue over into another thing. You know, shows like Critical Role and Harmon Quest that, you know, show why this type of game can be so much fun to tell your own story.
And speaking of Critical Role and Harmon Quest, you're looking at two completely opposite ends of the spectrum too.
Yeah.
Harmon Quest is from Dan Harmon, the creator of Community, and he gets celebrity guests, and theirs is more funny because, you know, a lot of comedy in it.
Yeah.
But it's still just a lot of fun to watch because they animate the whole thing. It is so much fun to watch. And my wife and I love watching that show, and that's what we're hoping there's a 4th season. Critical Role is probably one of the best D&D games you will ever watch slash listen to. They probably have the best DM that's ever been out there.
Yes.
So you know more about them than I do.
Yeah. You know, I came across that a while back whenever I was you know, really you know, I don't remember what it was that piqued my interest in really wanting to get into D&D. It may have been Stranger Things that like really finally kind of kicked it off. And then somebody somewhere told me, like, well, if you enjoy that style of storytelling and you want to watch something really cool, then watch Critical Role. And I found some episodes on YouTube and stuff, and their DM Matt Mercer is just amazing at telling a story. You can when he paints a picture with words of a scene, describing how things look, like you feel like you're there. You know, they set the mood with music, and their characters well developed. It's all voice actors that are playing, so they're super talented. They have these super deep, involved backstories, and it's not like watching somebody play a game. It's like watching
You're there.
Like you're there, and you're watching this fantasy movie play out, just a little bit at a time in 4-hour chunks over 120 something episodes for this second.
I don't even know how much it is, but it's massive.
It's massive,
and it's
like you start watching. Like when I first started watching, like, okay, this is a 4-hour chunk or 3-hour chunk or whatever it is to watch. Like, I'm not going to sit down and watch all this. I'm like, oh my god, episode 1's over. Now I got to go to the second one. Now I got to go to the third one, because they tell their stories so well, and their characters, you get so involved with them that you want to keep watching, and you want to hear what happens next. And that kind of inspired me, like, okay, I want to do this. This looks like fun. I don't know if I can do this as good as they are. I'm pretty confident I cannot, but it's gonna be fun to try. You know, there's a lot of improv that goes on, and just playing off each other, and it's just inspiring to watch. If you've ever been interested, if you've never played and you're interested, or you're just kind of curious of what that world's like, you know, check out Critical Role on. I think you can find all the episodes on YouTube.
You can find them anywhere.
Yeah, they're all over the place. And watch a couple, and then if there's anything in you that could possibly be interested in wanting to try to play something like that, that will kick it off. And it's going to set pretty high expectations too, but yeah, it's a great inspiration and a great source to go and look at and see, like, okay, this would be something that I'm interested in. Way better than watching my Twitch stream and me trying to fumble through playing as a Hill Dwarf Ranger, which I get.
To be fair, there's one of the girls in your group has a dwarf fetish. They always hit on you.
Yeah. Well, my dwarf. God. Okay, so I play a Hill Dwarf Ranger named Borko Rackencrack. I picked Borko because it was a funny playoff. Like, my GTA roleplay character was named Bronco McDougan, and when I would mess something up, you know, I'm like, okay, that's not Bronco, that's Borko. I'm like, well, I'm gonna make a D&D character named Borko. So I made Borko Rackencrack like a long time ago, as this just Hill Dwarf Ranger, because I had this vision in my head of this little stubby dwarf with a bow strapped to his back, carrying a couple of short swords, running around thinking like he's like this tall, lanky, athletic elf that could do some really cool stuff, but he really can't because he's little and stocky, and he's not supposed to be naturally persuasive. He's not, they're not typically charmers, and we talked about those, random successful rolls that you can get, and he's had some really good rolls on some persuasion checks that he had no business being able to do. Like we had one of our missions was to go talk to a lady that lived in a windmill and ran like an apothecary type shop, and she was being harassed by this massive beast, which we found out later was a manticore, and we had to try to convince her to come back to town with us, and she didn't want to go. And like, I'm just going to have Borko try to seduce the windmill lady, knowing that he probably should not be able to. My stats weren't built for that, but I'm like, hell with it, I'm going to try anyway, because it's going to be like, in my head I'm thinking I'm going to fail, it's going to be hilarious, and it'll make the story move along. I had no anticipation of being able to do that, and I think I rolled a natural 20, or I rolled really good. It may have been a nat 20 when I did. So the Borko seduced the windmill lady, and Bone was really uncomfortable about it, but it was funny watching his reaction and having to go along with it, and we got to take this pretty windmill lady back to town with me. And then that's just kind of became the canon of the group, that now Borko tries to seduce everything because he had success one time, and so yeah, Borko the seducer.
I'm gonna make you.
We got off on a tangent. We did. We went way off the rails
way
there
off,
a
but
little bit.
This is why we write down talking points.
Yeah, so we can reel
me
back in, because I will ramble and get way off track.
We both do.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that has helped a lot to bring role-playing to the mainstream has been high-profile celebrities playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Williams played a standing game every week. Vin Diesel hosts a session. There is multiple. Will Wheaton, bless him, love Will Wheaton. He's a constant role player. Are you looking up a list to see who plays?
I am, because I know I'm going to, butcher his name, but Mike Myers, Stephen Colbert. I
forgot about Stephen
Will
Colbert.
Wheaton, Tom Morello played. Ooh, that's cool.
Does he play a guitarist?
I don't. He probably.
I forgot about Vince Vaughn too.
I would love to play a session with Vince Vaughn. If he should date Tim Duncan.
It would be money.
Kevin Smith. Okay, so if I had a group with Vince Vaughn, let's go through here. Kevin Smith, Vin Diesel, and Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Oh, he played on Harmon Quest then. I think that'd be a fun group.
Yeah,
You
it
got
would.
some people that you expect, like Joss Whedon plays Kurt Schilling. What?
Really?
Sober enough? Is he sober enough to play? Okay.
Yeah, that's the beauty of role playing. You don't have to be sober.
And then you have Harmon. So there's I wish I should have saved it earlier. I found an article about this group. They called it like Hollywood, the Hollywood Elite D&D group of just these high profile celebrities and studio execs that get together for sessions regularly. So it's becoming more mainstream and kind of like they've, it's not like you hear Vin Diesel talk about it, and I've seen a few interviews. It's not something that he just started playing in the last couple of years when it became more mainstream and more accepted. Like he's played since high school. He has characters that when he goes, he did an episode with Matt Mercer,
Critical Role.
they call it from Critical Role called D and Diesel, where he brought up his I think it was a witch hunter character. I can't remember the name of the character, but
Cal something like that,
which I think was an evolution of a character that he had made like when he was in high school that he's carried forward and done different versions of and things. So he's kind of attached to
Caldor.
Yeah. And so he unashamedly talks about playing it, and you can see when he plays it that he just really enjoys it and he's really into it and just loves the storytelling, and that's something that commented on to a friend of mine earlier today. When you watch these people play, and especially with Mercer DMing, that they get this look on their face of like a little kid seeing Star Wars for the first time and just in awe of, they're just sucked in and they're totally into the story, and that's part of the beauty of not just D&D but just any good role-playing game is when you can get lost in the story, you can get sucked in, and immersion is a big thing with role-playing.
If you kind of think about it, role-playing, voice actors are role-playing.
Yeah.
It's because they have to become these characters. They do the voices. They become like Vin Diesel's first like technical real job, his real first acting job. Do you know what that was?
I do not. I really hope you can tell me though.
The Iron Giant. He was the Iron Giant in Iron Giant.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Now you're gonna go back and listen to that, and you go, "Oh my god, that is him." Wow. That was technically his first acting job.
Did he okay, so with the Iron Giant, do you think it started off as like a normal Iron Giant, and then he, really, put the wrench and the bolts and the, really tuned
when they heard his voice?
But yeah, they heard his voice, like, okay, now he's got some NOS canisters in the back, and, he's drifting the giant.
Laser beams. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's Vin Diesel. I wouldn't mess with him. I'm like, yeah, sure. You want a jetpack? Sure, you get a jetpack.
Yeah, we're gonna
why not
take this Iron Giant from slow and happy to fast and
furious.
Yeah. That's where I was going with that, and I was really hoping to catch it, and I failed miserably. I was trying so hard to set you up for that.
I figured you were going there.
You just left me hanging out there. Like, let's see how long he's going to ramble on about this before he just finally breaks down and says what it is.
Keep going.
No, that was it. That's where it ended. So.
Kyle's kind of talked about his role-playing experience. My role-playing experience goes back. I played off and on for years. Nothing within the last 10, though, I would say.
We're bringing you back into the fold.
Woo! We started off with D&D 3rd edition, and then when 3.5 came out, that's when it really started getting like much better because 3 sucked. So I want to say that's when we did. I've always played a paladin too, just because I think they're fun. It's fun to be the noble guy who's just like batshit crazy because of his fanaticism to his religion. So that was always fun, and I always played from like the Blade Fist family, so there'd be different characters, but they'd always have a Blade Fist. They'd be nobles. Fast forward to my good friend Jason Michael's campaign. He was DMing for us, It was in the Ravenloft universe. Ravenloft is the horror universe of the Dungeons and Dragons world. I don't think they make it anymore. They might have brought it back. I don't know. But Ravenloft is vampires, werewolves, zombies, like, all that's in D&D, but this was an entire universe that was set. If you've watched the Castlevania Netflix show, it's very similar to that. That was Ravenloft.
It's like dark and gritty and
there's no happiness there. Like
everything has a blood tint to it.
Yeah, and it's exactly what it is. And you always have like a blood rage and everything else. So we were playing, and we wake up in this castle, and the time goes on. We're trying to find our way out of the castle, and eventually we stumble our way into this room after, like session after session, and we find this baby. And my character, being the noble paladin that he is, we can't leave this child. We need to take it. So we end up taking the baby. And the minute we take it, the alarm sound, and I'm sure someone in our group will probably correct me on this. It may not have gone down exactly like this because this was 20 years ago. But to the best of my knowledge, this is exactly how it went. So they're fighting off this undead army that's going after us. And then, part of it army, there's archers, shooting after us. And my paladin, most paladins have a skill proficiency, a riding proficiency with horse. I don't think you have to have that anymore. I think that's built in now, but you used to have the riding proficiency. And I had a really, really high riding proficiency with the horse. I made sure I put a lot of points into that. And I think everyone probably knows where this is going at this point now. So I'm riding with the baby. You can't ride with a baby holding onto a baby. So I strap the baby in my backpack, put the baby in my backpack, and I'm riding along. And, arrows are flying, and I'm weaving. And our DM says, okay, you need to roll for your skill check. Cool. I've been rolling really good. Rolled a 1. Critical fail. He goes, and look, a divine hand comes down. Roll it again, because you didn't want this critical failure at the time. Not with the baby on my back. I roll again, rolled a 1 again. I told you, when you roll crap, you start rolling like crap. Mm-hmm. Nothing we could do at that point. So he goes, okay, so the horse rears up because an arrow lands in front of it and you fall backwards. Well, when a knight with full plate mail armor falls backwards with a newborn baby in its backpack, it tends to not end well for the baby.
Oh.
All of a sudden, our DM put down the screen, started reading, and we're like, what the hell's going on? Apparently the baby, he goes, well, let me tell you what's going on. You guys traveled back in time. What happened? This was a time traveling campaign. You guys have traveled back in time. That baby was blah, 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 so-and-so, Lord, so-and-so count. He is the main bad guy in the entire Ravenloft series. He's the main vampire. He's the Lord. He's the Dracula. You just killed him before he became a vampire.
So you won.
We won. That was the end of the campaign. I single-handedly ruined this massive campaign by rolling a 1 twice. And that was the end of it. So did I feel like crap? Absolutely. Did I think it's funny 20 years later? Absolutely not. I still feel terrible about this because my friends would still bring it up. And what Kyle was saying earlier, how you'll talk about the really bad stuff that happens more than like you just breeze through it. This is one of the things that still gets brought up. How I ruined the campaign for everyone. So, I mean, I ruined my kids' lives right now. So... Yeah. What's another thing?
You did a Ravenloft speed run. Is really all it was.
I really did. It was practice.
Yeah.
And then, We played a lot of Shadowrun. Shadowrun was so much fun. That's a very cyberpunk, magic meets technology future, and that one is so much fun to play because you have hackers and um, we played Star Wars, and I played a tongue-tied engineer who was good at repairing droids. He always had this one droid with him. It was the disco droid. What it didn't do anything, but it just played music, and it would spin and do lots of lights. I think it had some electrical powers, but he had illusions of grandeur of building a droid army to take over the entire universe. This is well before episodes 1, 2, and 3, before this was even a thing. And he'd always mumble to himself while he's helping out the group, "I'll kill you all," and blah blah blah. It was just a good time. Like, my guy ended up taking one of our characters. He was a kid. A kid was a playable character with a pet. I took the kid's pet. We were trying to get into this base and strapped thermal detonators to the pet, and we activated them and threw them over the wall, and we were able to get in from there because I destroyed the kid's pet with a thermal detonator. I think it was 2 of them.
You can't make a cake without breaking a few eggs or a few kids' prized possessions.
That's the kind of man I am.
Well, you were committed to the character, though.
I was committed to something.
Or something, yeah. But you played it through.
I was committed to something, dude. I did. We played it through, and that's the whole point. When you start a character, you got to commit to it. Unless you die, then you can commit to a new character.
Or you kill the big bad guy.
Or you kill the big bad guy, and you ruin the campaign for 5 minutes.
He's just a wee little bad guy.
He's just just a little fella.
He's just a little evil villain.
So let's move on from that one.
You opened that wound. I didn't.
Yeah, I really did. I like putting lemon in my wounds. So there are different kinds of. We briefly touched on this. We'll delve a little bit deeper into this. Just like I said, this is kind of a high overview. But you have the different types of RPGs, like miniatures, for example. Yeah. Probably the biggest miniature game that I can think of to date is Warhammer 40K. You have different factions. It's a big, big industry. You buy these massive pieces, and the thing with the Warhammer genre is these figures, they're gray. They're metal figures that are gray. You have to paint these. So if you Google Warhammer 40K characters or miniatures, just go look at some of these pictures, and these are hand painted by people with like the finest horse-tailed paintbrush you can find. And it is just amazing. It takes hours and hours of skill. This has become big business. People will actually paint these to sell to people or do custom paint jobs for people.
Yeah.
It's freaking amazing. D&D's played with miniatures. Believe it or not. Do you know why? Yes, of course you know why. Why don't you tell people why?
Well, I mean, a lot of it comes back from the history of the actual wargaming side of it, because wargaming was played with miniatures. You had your units and stuff out on the table. We're naturally visually people. That helps to. You can play. You can do your battles without miniatures and without at least in D&D. I've never played Warhammer, and I'm gonna assume you probably can't, or you probably could. But there's something about setting the scene and having your miniatures and stuff out that it evokes the cool thing of back to your childhood when you pull out your GI Joes and stuff and your little green army men, and you would set them up to battle. That visual representation of what you're doing is cool. And then you have something personal. There's a website called Hero Forge, HeroForge.com.
Oh yeah. I forgot about Hero Forge.
That you can design and print your own miniature. So if you're playing, some of these campaigns can go on for years. You have a character that you're committed to, that you really, you've committed time and you're invested in this character. You maybe want something a little bit more personal. when you're sitting at the table, and I put Borko down on the table in real life, and I've got this miniature that I designed to look like him and carry his bow and his short swords and stuff, and it adds a little personal touch to it from your character side, and then from the group play side, everybody can kind of see everything. It helps you visualize especially like in battles and things, to help you visualize and come up with a strategy as a group on how to tackle different either battles or situations and stuff, and it just makes it that much more fun.
It's like Kyle's saying, it's the visual aspect. It helps a lot. It really does. Okay, I went to Hero Forge. I didn't even know about this. This is actually kind of awesome.
Yeah, you're getting ready to lose a whole bunch of time down that rabbit hole, buddy.
If you get there.
Yeah.
Holy jeez, there's a lot of characters you can make.
Yep.
You can be an elephant?
Just about anything you can think of that. Hero Forge is awesome. And, this is not a paid endorsement to Hero Forge at all. But it's,
if you guys want to pay us, we will.
Yeah, we'll totally take the money. We're not above that. But you can lose just a lot of time. I still haven't ordered anything from there. I want to order my Bronco character from that I made for D&D or for GTA RP, just so I can have him sitting on my shelf somewhere. But I'd also like to have Borko, and it's just a cool little thing to make these little. I think they're like 3.5 inches tall.
Except for the XL ones.
Oh yeah, there's the big ones. You can just spend a lot of time just sitting on that website designing your miniature. It's so much fun. I'll order one eventually, but
I might order one.
Yeah, you're gonna lose a lot of time playing with that.
Okay, I gotta get off this so we can get back to the podcast.
Well, as soon as I brought it up, we'll talk about that after show.
Yeah, I could ride on a wolf.
Yeah.
I'm off. Star Wars has a really big miniatures game where you can position the ships. I think it's called Armada. I could be wrong. They've had a couple iterations, right, but it's really cool. Especially if you've ever wanted to command, Imperial Star Destroyer or a TIE Fighter or an X-Wing. There's just all sorts of stuff. Kyle went over the board games already. There's as many board games. I had a nip earlier when I had a drink. Board games. You may or may. Okay, I'm gonna take a drink of water here.
You'll get there.
Okay. You may or may not have known, but Cyberpunk 2020 actually started off as a tabletop game.
I think 2020 was the board game. I think 2077 is the video.
It's the It's the video.
Here. Tabletop, or was it mostly pen and paper? But it started off as it didn't have a. Yeah, it was Cyberpunk 2020 was the tabletop game. Cyberpunk 2077 is the video game. Is the video game. It's same universe and all that. Boy, I'd like to play 2020.
Let's play it. We should do a Shadowrun too. There is just go into your local comic shop. Oh, I can't stress this enough. Go into your local comic shop, when there's not a pandemic and it's safe to do so. Most of them are very safe because nerds are used to social distancing anyway.
Yeah.
Mostly because they won't get near each other. Or no one else will either. But go support them. Like, introduce someone to it because they have so much material in there that you may not have even known about, and a wealth of knowledge if you're even interested in it. So it's really cool. Computer games. Kyle went over a lot of the computer games. Borderlands is another one that I can think of.
Borderlands is. I wonder if there is a Borderlands tabletop. That'd be awesome. I know there's a Fallout tabletop.
Which
Skyrim
that would be fun.
D&D.
Right.
But all Final Fantasy, anything like I said, anything that has character building and loadouts and skill trees and things, they trace their roots back to the pen and paper and dice system. Everything's a random chance. It's just the computer rolling the dice for you.
Mm-hmm. And that, I think that's what for me makes it a lot more exciting is with the computer game, it's a set of codes. There's possibilities, but it's always going to be the same set of possibilities.
Right.
With the pen and paper, or like the system you're using right now online.
Yeah.
You're playing with real players who have their own way of thinking. They have their own method. So it's never going to be the same. It's going to be very interesting every time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that to me is the
dialogue
advantage.
choices.
So, or you could if the DM makes you write it out, and then you have to hand out dialogue choices.
Well, yeah, but you can't press X to skip dialogue. Tell your kids that.
No, you can't. Not like my daughter.
No.
I think we remember that from last episode. And then there is one we did not talk about, and we're not going to go really into depth because that's its own thing too. And that's LARPing. Do you know what LARP stands for?
Live action role play.
What is LARPing, sir?
So LARPing is something that I've never done. I've seen some stuff on it, and actually seen some people doing it in a park one time. Is basically taking what you would be doing in those tabletop and pen and paper games and acting it out in person. And I would argue that okay, I'll get to that. The image that most people would have of people LARPing are a bunch of nerds running around the park in robes and in hand fashioned armor and throwing wads of papers as lightning bolt, and
ill-fitting robes.
Mm-hmm. But I would actually argue that like Civil War reenactments and things like that I think fits the definition of live action role play.
Good point, sir.
You're playing a role. There's
Vietnam reenactment role players.
Vietnam reenactment role players. There's actually a place, I can't remember where it's at. It's here in Oklahoma. They do Oklahoma D-Day where they reenact the invasion of Normandy through paintball.
I would absolutely call that LARPing.
I would call that LARPing. I don't know if I would tell them that they're on site because I've been shot with paintballs and it sucks and they may turn on you. But
I'll do it during an online chat forum though, damn it.
Yeah, you LARPing sons of bitches, don't even. But yeah, anything where you're playing out a role. I mean, that's like I said, the Civil War reenactment. You got people there; they go full out with the costumes and their camps and the authentic food and stuff. I think that all fits the definition. Prove me wrong.
I agree. Prove him wrong.
I'm sitting at the desk with a sign. Change my mind. You're not going to be able to.
Post it on our Facebook or somewhere, or on, you can tweet us out at it, or come to our Discord channel and argue with him. Change his mind.
Change my mind that Civil War reenactment is yeehaw LARPing. Change my mind.
So now what's funny is RPG has, like we were talking about, has gained a whole new following, and this has spawned its own following in places like Japan. Because now there's actually anime, which is the Japanese animation, which we'll be going over in episodes, where you get trapped in the RPG. There's a couple facets. We'll go over that. So the three different kinds, in my opinion, the first would be the ones where they become trapped and within the RPG, like they fall asleep or something happens and the server's supposed to shut down, and then all of a sudden they wake up and they're in the role-playing game.
Link start.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I had to get some nerd credit in somewhere.
So one of those would be Arifureta. I can't pronounce the right one. From Commonplace to World's Strongest, which was from last year, I think. It was great. Log Horizon, which is one of my favorites. Overlord, which is kind of turned it on its head because usually you wake up as the hero. In Overlord, this guy, there's been 3 seasons. He woke up. He played the bad guy in the game. They were part of the undead, basically the evil, and he stayed that way. So that that kind of turned its head on everything. So that one was really cool. What else can you think of that would fit that?
Well, these would be I'm not familiar with those. I want to watch Overlord now after that explanation.
Overlord's awesome.
Ones I'm familiar with would be the SAO series, Sword Art Online. Sword Art 1, Sword Art 2, Gun Gale. I haven't watched the newest. What's the newest?
Rise. The latest one was Alicization.
Yeah, that. I haven't watched that yet, but Sword Art was
That
really
one's fun.
cool. Taking, with the popularity of VR and this, this group of players that played a massive multiplayer online RPG, MMORPG online through VR, where they're stuck in the world and they cannot disconnect, or they die in real life. And if they die in the game, they die in real life, and the only way out of the game is to basically beat the game. Really, really cool series. We can do episodes and episodes and episodes on Sword Art if we wanted to, and
it's a very in-depth series.
I would say that would be a great one to jump off into if you're looking for this type of anime to get into. Sword Art is a great stepping stone. That's where I start with this now. Looks like I'm going to be watching Overlord and Log Horizon and the one that Chris can't pronounce.
They're really good.
More homework. Let me put it on my list over here.
Yeah, there's another. The second genre is where they play the anime. They don't wake up inside of it, but Bofuri. I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. That was from summer season, I want to say. She wanted to play. It's a VR game with her friend. Her friend couldn't be there, so she didn't know what to do. So she started maxing out all her points in vitality for defense. She can log out anytime she wants, and that's what she does. So she's not actually trapped in there. This is about her playing the role-playing game. Mm-hmm. And it's just funny because the DMs keep having to nerf the game to nerf her, and she ends up getting stronger. So it's a fun one to watch. It really is. I'm hoping there's a season 2. What's the third one?
The third one you have is role playing. And
do you know either of these?
I do not know. That's what I'm looking at. You have Hack.
Hack.
Hack and Record of Lodos War. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen either one of those.
So Hack has a pretty huge following. There's a lot of PlayStation games based off of it.
I've seen those. Okay.
There's like .hack / .hack code, stuff like that. I think it was .hack code. But it's actually role playing. You're role playing the role playing character. Record of Lodos War is an older one, but it's one of my favorites. I've got it on Blu-ray now, and it's on the Funimation app. Record of Lodos War is
adding that to
it's Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
Karn the hero is the warrior. Deedlit is the high elf archer. You have Woodchuck the rogue. You've got, I want to say his name Gimli. I can't remember. You got a dwarf. You've got a mage. They're hunting a dragon. It's D&D. It's completely D&D, but it's a very, very in-depth one. So that's just a couple examples. Like I said, there's a lot more that I'm sure that I've missed, and we'll go over those later. But we just wanted to kind of introduce you to the world of role playing, and I hope you've gotten something from this and a better understanding. So, like, if one of your kids comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm gonna role play," you can at least shock them by saying a little bit something about what they're talking about, and not think that it's like a devil's thing, or you're again drinking canine's blood.
Yeah, it's just it's a great vessel for spurring imagination and creativity, and I would say especially with the tabletops, great social activity for if your kids or you yourself are a little bit introverted, there's plenty of like-minded people there's people looking for groups all the damn time. I'm part of a group on Facebook that it's a Oklahoma D&D group that I would say that's 90% of the posts is somebody just trying to find somebody to play with, and most of the time I think your group's pretty accepting, and once all this is over, the pandemic side and being able to get together socially and stuff, it's a great activity to get into, just to really work your mind and think about, there's for the kids there's problem solving, and it's a great thing. My kids are starting to get into it a little bit with I think it's called Hero Kids, is like a kid version of D&D, and I would say if they show any little bit of interest in it, encourage it. Don't discourage it, because there's a lot of really cool things that could come from that.
I agree. And I think one of the biggest things that you're going to find from this is conflict resolution. I say this because you're always going to have that one asshole in your party who charges headfirst through traps and anything else. The Leroy Jenkins of your Jenkins. You're always going to have the Leroy Jenkins in your group, and you're going to have to learn how to get along with them. Yep.
If you don't have a Leroy Jenkins, then damn it, you're Leroy Jenkins. And you need to do some self-reflection and really think about how you're affecting the group.
You're Leroy Jenkins. Damn it, go get some chicken.
Yeah. I think
if you don't understand that, go look it up.
I'm starting to think Borko might be Leroy now.
I think
Borko might be Leroy.
I think Borko is Leroy of your group. You're the asshole.
That's fine. Well, props to look back at. Kuzas is back, so we got Kuzas can fill the Leroy role now. So
if he ever finds his way back to you guys.
He made it back last week.
Did he?
Yep, Kuzas is back.
Well,
you
good.
missed that part. He woke up in the tavern and he dragged his ass back down to the dwarf ruins.
Good.
He's good. He's hung over a little bit, and Borko gets to give him shit about not being able to hold his drink, and so it's fun.
Even better. Mm-hmm. So now is the time on the show we call Nerddrome. 2 nerds enter, 1 nerd leaves.
Then a little bit later, the other nerd leaves, but he's sad because he lost. I'm so excited for this.
This is the part where we have a list of random characters, random locations, and random scenarios. In the battle, we don't know any of this information except what we put into the generator. Then we have to... Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, defend our picks and then decide who would win. So this is... we talked about this a little bit in the last episode. If you didn't go back, listen to that. But you made it this far, so finish this out first. Then go back and listen to the other one. If you made it this far, please finish this out because we're like nearing the end. Bear with us. But we're taking that traditional idea of the nerdy conversation you have about who would win in a fight between Batman and Superman that people hash out to death all the time, but we're just doing this a little bit better because we're putting our twist on it and making it a little bit more fun with random characters from pop and nerd culture, giving them random locations to fight in that aren't your typical locations, and definitely not your typical activities of just kicking each other's ass. We have some more fun stuff in there, so Chris will get a random character, I'll get a random character, and we'll have to defend our choices, and we're going in this completely blind, so I just really hope I get somebody that I know.
Well, and I just realized we need to have in the Discord channel a nerd drum where people can
vote.
Put who their vote.
Yeah,
we need to put that too.
I'm pretty sure Zoidberg won last week, so we don't have the results of the last one.
We need people to weigh in, so we'll create that this week.
Yep.
I am fairly certain Zoidberg did not win, but we'll go on from there. All right, you can see my screen.
Okay, is this for me or for you?
I went first last week, I believe, so you go first this week.
Okay. If it's somebody I don't know, I want to respin, but go for it.
Okay.
Oh, and I get...
Damn it! No!
Megatron. Okay. Can
no.
Megatron.
Yes, you can work it. Well, it depends what it is. But no. You got a giant robot of death, a death-dealing robot.
Okay, I can think I can work with Megatron.
All right, my go. No!
Bobby Hill. Okay, well, it depends on the activity, though.
That's true, too, but this is already gearing up to be not a great battle.
I know. I just have high-level Transformer knowledge, but we'll see what we can do here.
All right, the Location.
Shaolin Temple. Are we in the temple?
I don't think it really specifies, so it could go from in or out.
Okay.
I mean, we might want to put that for next week. Shaolin Temple inside, Shaolin Temple outside.
We'll go with it. We'll just say the general temple area. So Megatron versus Bobby Hill in a Shaolin Temple doing what? Damn it! Chris's choice. That's fine. That's fine. Chris's choice.
My choice would be. Let's see. And we never actually specified it. I think our choices have to be from this wheel, though. Wouldn't you say? From the list of choices?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think Tug of War would be a really good choice for me.
That'd be a really short battle.
That would be a very short battle. I would say Megatron versus Bobby Hill in the Shaolin Temple. Baking a cake.
We did baking a cake last week.
But I have the advantage if I do that. How about...
I mean, if you really want to do that.
No, let's do... You're right, we did that last week. Let's kind of make this fair for both of them. Even though it's my choice and I can get the advantage, I'll wait till we get later in the series to get a real advantage.
Okay.
How about we do... God, this is tough because we have so many options. Fallout style survival.
I can do that. So we're going to say, we're saying like the Shaolin Temple is basically like a post-nuclear Fallout environment?
Yes.
Easy peasy. I went first last time, so you go first this time.
Okay. Bobby Hill. What can we say about Bobby Hill except he is the apple of his mother's eye and the thorn in his dad's side? Not because he's a bad kid. Bobby is actually a very good kid. But because Bobby is different from Hank in many ways. Hank is, the supposed manly man, grilling and propane and outdoor and NASCAR. Bobby has more intermediate knowledge of everyday life, such as when he picked up the Good Housekeeping and he learned how to make stuff, he repaired Hank's jeans that Peggy ruined. That would come in great handy for a survival type scenario where Bobby is able to repair clothing. He can, if he finds some old magazines, he can say, oh, we could do this. Look, we found this rotten wolf meat. Hello, Sunday roast. We can do all sorts of stuff with this. Bobby is charismatic. He would find other survivors and bring them over to their side, therefore increasing their chances of survivability. That's why I think Bobby, all those reasons above, I think Bobby would win this Fallout style survival and he would be a survivor.
Okay.
Ingenuity. And so, what are you talking about?
I'm going with, we have a post-nuclear survival situation. There's going to be radiation. There's going to be toxic waste. There's going to be just a very, inhospitable environment in general. Megatron's like an interstellar traveling being. I don't think I've ever seen a Transformer, Decepticon, anything eat anything. So food survival, sold right there. Radioactive environment survival, easy peasy right there. He's got his damn blaster arm to fight off any mutated creatures way better than Bobby could. If this is like a Fallout style environment, even in the Shaolin Temple, that temple is not going to ward off a Deathclaw from coming in and slicing Bobby's face off. He's screwed. He's going to cower in the corner. He's going to hide. Megatron's just going to blast it right in the face. Game over. He's going to be able to fight off anything that comes. He's not going to have to worry about food. He's not going to have to worry about water. He's a survivor. I mean, he kind of worked his way up through the ranks, if I understand this correctly, as he was kind of a lowly worker. So he's a survivor, and he's got fortitude. He's got a lot of self-determination. He's very goal-oriented. Okay, if anything, Megatron is super goal-oriented. Whether it be survival in a post-nuclear apocalypse or trans-world domination, I'm throwing my head in that Megatron has it.
I forgot to mention, Bobby did survive being in the hole for a couple of days that Cotton threw him in. So Bobby's been preparing for this. You know what? Damn it, Bobby's still been preparing for this. Cotton didn't have no shins. He killed 50 men.
50 men.
He killed 50 men.
50 men.
All right. Who won?
Put it out there. We should probably put a link to the Discord in the YouTube description so you guys can go out, join the Discord, and vote. We'll have the poll up there eventually.
It is on sometime. The link is on our Anchor link, and I think it's on Spotify now too. So the links are out there too. Yeah, we'll put them up on the YouTube and Facebook.
The Discord is, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's kind of like a chat room on steroids, basically. It's our Discord server itself is very community oriented. We want you guys to get in there and share the things that you enjoy and that you find nerdy and connect with other people. We can talk with us directly about the show, what you like, what you didn't like, vote on the Nerd Drone battles, topics that you may find interesting, and it's going to help us find experts in fields that we want to talk about down the road, but just really help everybody kind of connect and meet each other and start talking, and a lot of the people that we talk about on the show and that we'll have on the show eventually, and some of our guests, they'll be in there, and so give everybody a really good chance just to interact and really build a community around the vision that we have for this show, beyond just being a podcast for us to kill some time on Sunday nights. So
come join us. Feel free.
Come join us. Please join us. Be our friends.
please be our friends. Kyle, what are you watching or reading this week?
Okay, so I did catch up on a large portion of my homework. This week I watched some more Cowboy Bebop. I think I'm about a quarter of the way, a little bit more through the series now. Yep. Things are starting to fall together, make a little bit more sense. Like you said, it's nothing but uphill from where I left off last time. I watched Rad last night.
You kind of watched Rad.
I totally watched Rad. Well, okay, I riffed all the way through Rad.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a riffable movie. But you can get off my ass on that one now because I watched it.
It is, but it's amazing because Aunt Becky's in it and the 6-minute BMX intro.
It's just, I'm sitting there watching that and I'm like, the scene where Crew's mom is on his ass about him, you need to go to college and you need to take your SAT and you can't skip that. That's your future. And I'm thinking, Lori Laughlin's right there. She can help him get into college. Easy. Easy peasy. That's all he's just gotta talk to future Aunt Becky.
I didn't think about that.
So easy to get. I mean, we'll talk about that at one point in time, but yeah, I think
too soon.
Too soon. Not too soon.
Not too soon. I mean, 13 months too soon.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to think about like a short description of it, it would be 34-year-old high school senior Crew has a vision of becoming a professional BMX rider, and for some reason Mongoose and uses their little Poda. Do you think the sales of Mongoose bikes like plummeted after that movie? Do you think that had like a negative effect on that because they weren't portrayed in the best light? Really?
They were. Yeah, no, because
you sure people were like, these guys are assholes. We don't want to buy
BMX was huge during this time frame.
Right.
Huge.
But okay, I'm gonna concede to that.
Rad's amazing. Like, I love Bill Allen, who played Crew. Like, That is one of my all-time favorite movies. I own every copy that is digital. I own the bootleg copies. I was one of the guys who petitioned to have it on Blu-ray. I've got 2 copies of the 4K. One I am keeping unopened. One I opened to watch.
You have one collector, like the one you don't take out of the package, like that stays.
That's exactly it.
That doesn't leave.
I ordered 2.
Okay. So you probably know this. I'm going to guess you know this. So the main antagonist, Bart. What was his last name in the movie?
Bart was it? It's I get it
Bart
confused
Taylor.
with his real name. Bart Taylor in the movie.
Okay. Well, that's where I was going to go. I didn't know. Like Bart was played by Bart. Like he looked like
Bart
a Bart.
Connor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like that guy is totally a Bart. I wonder who plays him. Look it up. Also a Bart. Okay, so that makes sense. They're just these awesome '80s names in the movie. So yeah, I marked that off the list. And I also watched Legend and some Mystery Science Theater. Legend was great. I want to get my kiddo to watch that. So that was. I had thought I'd seen it. Like I had swore up and down that I had watched, and I probably may have when I was like way younger. But it was like watching it all new, so maybe I hadn't seen it. But I did watch Legend last night, and that was great. And then. Just to because I have to at least once a month. I watched Mystery Science Theater 3000. Watched the Space Mutiny episode. So
little known fact: Bart Connor played Bart Taylor in the movie. Bart Connor was an Olympic gold medalist. He's married to Nadia. I think it's Nadia Comaneci.
Really?
They live in Norman. Back when my wife and I lived in Norman. They own a gymnastics academy there. So small world. I mean, I've never met them, but I remember seeing them around town.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really
you fanboy
cool.
Out? Did you retain?
Absolutely, absolutely. He's another one I really want to meet and talk to. But yeah, no, it was awesome. So, and the mom. And Rad was
I can't remember her actual real name, but she played Adrian in the Rocky movie. What was her name?
It's like Talala Shire.
Talia Shire?
Yeah, something like that.
Talia Shire.
Yep, Talia Shire.
She played a mom that was the same age as her son, which was really brave of her to do in that in that time.
And Ray Walston was in it, who you remember as the judge from Picket Fences and a slew of other movies. Rad is just awesome.
It's rad.
It's rad.
It's a totally radical movie.
What the main one I watched this week, there's been a couple, but the main one I watched this week was the Doctor Who Christmas special, the holiday special.
Okay. Finally
got caught up with that. It was amazing. It really was. It brought back kind of the heart of the show. Not going to give away any spoilers, but there's old faces that return. It was just extremely well written, and it brings back the feel of Doctor Who for me. And it was probably up there and probably my top 5 favorite Doctor Who's so far. It was just well written. So it was a lot of fun. And then Jodie Whittaker, the current Doctor, the first female Doctor, announced soon after this will be her last season coming up. So they're having to rewrite for reincarnation or regeneration, not reincarnation, regeneration. So she's doing the typical Doctor Who thing where they're around for 3 seasons and then they become a new Doctor. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if she becomes a ginger this time, like she's always wanted to be, or a man ginger, or another female ginger, or just whatever. It was a lot of fun though.
So, what did you learn this? So there's what you've watched. Something new you learned this week.
So something new I learned this week. There were 3 songs written about Dave Coulier. What are those 3 songs?
So,
Kyle and I discussed this earlier this week.
One was, I think everybody knows is, if they don't know, then you ought to know what the song was. Should I? You want me to
Well,
leave it at
I
that?
had no choice. I had no choice.
You Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette, which I think almost everybody knows that's about Dave. And she confirmed that, too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
Yep.
then the two I didn't know until Chris brought this up to me was No Scrubs by TLC.
Mm-hmm.
Because apparently, what was the story? Like, him
he-
and Stamos were like in a
Yeah.
convertible.
They're cruising by. Yep.
And
They're
like,
cruising by. And Chili and T-Balls were walking down the street. And Coulier, I guess, started hollering at him out the window, leaning out the window, hollering at him. And what was it that they said? T-Balls?
What did she say? I wish I should have had the article up and ready. I had it out there and you made me delete it from because I shared it with everybody.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that they said was he is so lucky that Left Eye isn't here because.
Oh yes.
But what was the other
she
part?
would've-
The funny part. Yeah, she would have fucked him up.
Oh, what was it? Here, I'm gonna find. When you talk about the third song, I'm gonna find that quote.
Okay. The third one was the most interesting to me because you would not have guessed this. That would have been the 2000s, I think. Hit 'em Up Style by Blue Cantrell. Hit 'em Up Style is based off of, it was written about Dave Coulier. So Dave Coulier was quite the holla. He was quite the holla because it's let me holla.
Here's what T-Boz said about Dave out the window just yelling. It's just like, so yeah, he flexed on us, but out of respect for our Canadian queen, we didn't give him the time of day. He was lucky Left Eye wasn't with us that day. That's for damn sure.
And he's what they say something about he was talking in some damn chipmunk voice or squirrel voice.
Yeah, like he was. Where was it here? Pastor Car.
Woodchuck.
Yeah, he was
fast
using.
can be.
What was his? What was that character's name? I mean, what did he call?
Woody Woodchuck, maybe, or something like that.
think it was Woody
Fast as fast can be.
Using that voice to hit on 2/3 of TLC,
Which is
where do you
amazing.
But where do you think? I mean, like, I get, shooters got to shoot. You got to throw it out there and see if it.
I don't even know. Like, the guy has the biggest balls of anyone, and got 3 songs written about him, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Dave Coulier, we salute you.
Yeah, I mean, play your game, man. You got it.
What have you learned this week?
And so I learned through my research on doing my D&D research and about the history and stuff that from the white box, what they call it, the very, very first iteration of Dungeons and Dragons, that Gary and Dave were a little bit of perverse there. Like, I saw some of the artwork from the books and things, and there's a lot of boobs, like a whole lot of boobs in those. They're crudely drawn boobs. It looked like stuff like, if you're in 8th grade math class, you're in algebra, and you're not really paying attention, you're just drawing like band names and stuff, and that weird S thing that everybody made. Like, I'm just going to make a Medusa,
And that's what it was?
with giant boobs. Like, that was like the art in the books, and I mean, I think that's amazing. I'd like to get a hold of one of those. I'm sure there's super collector's editions. You can't find them, but yeah, there's like, they weren't thinking about the marketability of. There's like, we're just going to throw some boobs in here, and nerds will eat this up, and they did.
What?
So
Know your audience.
know your audience.
And they did.
They did. Eventually had to cover them up.
Wait, let's turn the page. Ooh, it's boobs. Roll a 20.
Medusa's got them out.
Roll a d20.
Oh, I just hit my head on my microphone.
You should not do that, sir.
Should not do that.
So next week will be a very special episode. Well, at least to Kyle and I.
I'm so excited.
Kyle, what episode are we doing, sir?
We are going to be covering the fabulous and wonderful world of Mystery Science Theater 3000. probably one of the greatest shows ever produced. And just ever.
It'll be hot merging action, and because we're on a collision course to wackiness. If you watch the show, you'll understand that.
So I'll be able to drive it.
Oh, Calgon, take me away.
One of the most quotable. Yeah, I don't want to burn all of it out right now.
No. We won't. We'll have a lot, and we will have a special guest with us. Mr. Justin will be joining us. He is a huge Misty, so that'll be a really good episode, I think. Well, they're all good episodes. Damn it! If you tell me otherwise, I'll argue with you on the keyboard.
All 2 of our episodes have been great, including this one. But this next one coming up. Oh, you're talking about Mystery Science Theater. Never mind.
Mystery Science Theater. Yep.
Not
all
us.
2 of them.
We're not
no.
Here.
And again, I will argue with you over the internet. But if you tell me how much our show sucks in real life, I'll probably go, yeah, you're probably right, and kind of run off to my corner. That's what I do.
It's fine.
So it's fine.
We don't need you to love us. Please love us.
Please love us. Look at us.
Well, thank you guys for making it this far, for sure.
We really appreciate
listened
you.
through all this and through the commercials. We would, like to thank our sponsor. Harry's a great man. Such a great man.
Great man. We love you, Harry.
And we'll see you guys next week with Mystery Science Theater.
With that, I'm Chris.
I'm Kyle.
And have a good one.
Have a great one, guys.
Elevated. Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated.